And we're here with Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We only have a few weeks left until the beginning of training camp, which is, thank God. But on today's episode, late last week, after we released Poke the Bear, so we didn't get to really discuss it on Poke the Bear much, but after that dropped the 2022 Channel Media and Market Research Survey, which comes out every year, which is always a fun insight into everything Boston sports, came out, I believe it was on Thursday. And they always do every team in town, the five major men's teams: Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, Bruins, and of course the Revs. And we always have fun with this every year. There's always something in it that's pretty fun. And I think there were 16,103 qualified people who took the survey. I believe only like just under 10,000 did the Bruins section, because they do like an all teams, and they do each team specifically. And I found this interesting. And again, this is kind of just off the top. I want to know if you're worried about this at all, because I don't know if I'm super worried about it, but it's not a red flag, but it's something to keep an eye on. It said, which of the following is your favorite sports team of the five? And the Bruins came in at 11%, which was fourth out of the fifth out of the five. That is a 5% decrease from last season. Now, again, the Patriots are the Patriots. That's going to be that way for a long time, at least until well after Bill retires. The Red Sox have the history. The Celtics were just in the NBA Finals. The Revs, 2%. Unfortunate for them. If they moved to Boston, they would be much higher. But is there a reason to worry that interest is waning in the Bruins?
I think in the big picture, no. Now, if the Bruins go into a full-blown rebuild in the next couple of years, then maybe you're going to see that drop to maybe single digits, or you drop significantly. But let's face it, I think it's not a surprise to even the most diehard Bruins fans that even though maybe their full commitment is to the NHL team, bigger picture, look at the market, right? As you said, Patriots are king. Yes. Red Sox have the history and the passion, even if they are a woefully frustrating product. Still, the Red Sox are the Red Sox. So I think it's going to be every year you're kind of more or less jockeying for that third place spot with the Celtics. And I want to say that last year the Bruins were in third, right? So I think that is one. Yeah, that one's, I think, something where that third place is going to just depend on kind of which way the tides are going in terms of those two teams. And again, Bruins are competitive. They should be competitive again, but Celtics were 2 wins short of an NBA championship. So it makes a lot of sense that you look at, if you look at that overall survey and you saw the Celtics, you saw they made a lot of really big inroads from getting out of that frustrating Kyrie Irving kind of era where it's like, all right, they're always good, but they're always underachieving and they're not fun to root for, to this Ime Udoka led team that, with a lot of homegrown talent, a lot of, stingy defensive play. That's kind of a hallmark of this city. The success they had getting past teams like the Bucks and the Nets and the run they went on. Yeah, it does not surprise me at all the Celtics are in third. And again, I think that's something where Celtics is probably going to be a championship favorite again this year. So I would not be surprised, even if the Bruins are really good, that they're going to be in fourth again. That's just kind of the way of the world, right? Like, again, I think we both love hockey. We love talking Bruins, but I think we're both realistic as to where the Bruins do sit in this market. And I think the Bruins are cognizant of that, right? Like, again, you get to the playoffs, a lot of casual fans will catch playoff hockey fever, and that's obviously a fun time. But the Bruins don't get the same amount of views, especially when you get into the dog days of January and February, as maybe the teams like the Patriots or even the Red Sox, as cruddy as they were this year.
Yeah, it's funny. I think if the Bruins were in any other market, they would be number one, right? History and the passion of the fan base. I mean, they have everything here. It's just there's so much other things going on here. I will say the last time the Bruins were in single digits was 2018. They were at 8%. What's funny, though, is in 2015, they were 23%. They were in third. The Red Sox were 24. So they were right there with the Sox. Now, granted, in 15, the Sox were bad, and so were the Celtics. So, and again, the Bruins were kind of entering a rebuild at that time. I will say in the general questions on the sports team, on each team paired up against each other, the Bruins were saved by people hating what the Red Sox have done this year. I mean, like, truly saved. I think when it came, Jacobs Neely, Sweeney, they all ranked somewhere in the middle of the 5 teams in each one, because the Red Sox took all the heat. Chaim Bloom took all the heat. Their performance this year kind of, in some way, took a bullet, I think, for the Bruins. Now, in the Bruins-centric questions, Sweeney and Neely, and actually Jim Montgomery did not perform very well in people's faith in them. I think Montgomery was only 32%, had like good or high faith in Jim Montgomery, which I would say is kind of wild, because out of Montgomery, Sweeney, and Neely, I think I might put my most faith in Montgomery, just given he's a pretty solid NHL head coach. Again, we don't know how he's going to perform with this group, but it's something to think about. Are people too low on Jim Montgomery?
I think it's just probably the case of a new guy. You really don't maybe know much about him. And I think you also have all this news comes in wake of, Bruce Cassidy's firing, which, regardless of what you thought of him as a coach, he's still a guy that I think was popular with the fans, the media. He was, again, at the helm of a very successful kind of run the Celtics have been on. Again, hasn't resulted in a championship, but I think every year, the last couple of years, we thought the Bruins are right in the mix in terms of being legitimate contenders. So I think, you have that, addition here with Montgomery that some fans just really don't know what he brings or, what you're going to get out of him. I think that's something where, I think it's just probably lukewarm reception at the start. You're trying to, get the feeling out process for how this guy's going to be. I think we both agree, even though we probably weren't fans of just the way the overall Cassidy saga was handled. I think we're both in agreement that we could make the case that a new voice, Montgomery, a guy who has a pretty established track record, can and hopefully should get more out of this established core. I think it's just more of a case of just a new guy in there than a case of people like are already kind of ready and willing to bury Montgomery before he even coaches a game. Like I honestly think when you look at that list, what kind of surprised me the most is the fact that, there was a one ranking that was talking about how much you disagree with like the following statements. And one of them was like, I have complete faith in Don Sweeney as GM of the Bruins. And again, yeah, it wasn't like super high, but also there weren't like a lot of people going for like 1, 2, or 3 where it's like completely disagreed, right?
That was my next point, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now.
That's the thing that kind of surprised me is as much as you get the vitriol and the comments after the Cassidy firing, you look at maybe we just spend too much time on Twitter, which is honestly probably hazardous for all of our health. But like,
yeah,
you go on social media, you gauge that, the pulse of the fan base there. You would think there'd probably be a lot more disagreements or a lack of faith in terms of the Bruins front office after that. So the fact that, Sweeney still gets 44% saying that they're in complete faith of him, 20% say they, it's completely, pretty much agree. It's still pretty good numbers for a front office staff that I think we both agree definitely shoulders quite a lot of blame in terms of just the fact that this team has been good. They've been putting them in the position, but to get over the top, I think it kind of falls more on the roster construction and drafting than anything else.
Yeah, 59% have complete faith in Cam Neely, which I was kind of surprised by. You would expect less. Only 2% were a 1 on Neely, completely disagreeing in that statement, which I just find fascinating. And again, maybe it's, as you said, it's our fault for looking at Twitter too much, looking at replies to stories that you write or replies online. Maybe, it's funny, the real channel media and market research survey throughout the year is actually just Twitter. I feel like that's like the real survey throughout the year. That's how we really kind of take the temperature of fans. But maybe I'm curious if any of our listeners were surveyed in this, because I feel like a lot of like political polls I've never been hit up for. Like I feel like I don't know anyone. Maybe they just don't say anything. But I'm curious if anyone got hit up for this. Because it's a cool thing to do. I think the average time they said was like 18 minutes to complete for a person, and you got entered into winning like multiple $250 Visa gift cards, which like, hell yeah. To answer these questions, like this doesn't seem that hard. But yeah, again, I was just kind of shocked that people had that much faith in Sweeney. Again, 44% isn't great, but still higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, I think when you look at the fact that this was on, what was it, an 8-point or 7-point scale?
7-point, yeah.
Yeah, so, you have 24% also had him at 6%. Again, it was maybe more middle of the pack, but still, in terms of being a 7 or a 6, not too bad. Even a 5 had 16% of the vote. So a lot more, I think, in terms of positive or the very least lukewarm reception to him, as opposed to you feel like, you look at what social media has and everything. It seems like it's one extreme or the other. Seems like maybe it's just we should follow more of these surveys where I think, as we always talk about with anything in terms of player discourse, anything like that, probably falling somewhere in the middle is the best way to eventually end up. You can focus on the good and the bad. Maybe these people have the right idea here.
Maybe maybe these are the rational people who aren't on Twitter. They're smart. They don't go on Twitter. That would be kind of a smart move on their part. Probably safe to say they feel good all the time, right? They feel really good. But when you really want to feel terrific, and you want to feel good, and you want to wake up in the morning feeling great, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health and more energy. I don't drink coffee or use caffeine because I wanted healthier, natural energy, and AG1 has been providing it in droves. And by the way, 2 of the 3 other guys I live with can attest to this. I have gotten them on Athletic Greens and they love it too. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy or anything either. It has a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to each and every morning. So what is this stuff? With 1 delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75, yes, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things I barely even have breath to say it all. It helps so much out. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than a gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting really, really good. This all supports better sleep quality and mental clarity. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That is it. It's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look up your health. It's just one. We're always about number 1, and this is only 1 scoop, and they are the number 1. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bruins. Again, athleticgreens.com/Bruins. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So one thing I found maybe the most interesting part of this, and this is where I think maybe these Bruins fans who answered this were not entirely rational. I'm actually going in a different direction than I think you think I'm going in, because we're going to get to what I think you're thinking of.
Sure am.
In your opinion, what could the Boston Bruins do to improve their team? You know what the number 1 answer was? Acquire/get/sign 2 good goalies. That was 22% of the vote. Are people watching? They have 2 solid. You have a really good young goalie who's probably your starter of the next 12 years, and you have a 1B who, again, you have signed to a fair amount of money, but is also like really, really good. I'm just kind of surprised that's the number 1 thing.
Yeah, it is so far down the list when you look at what the actual flaws are of this roster. And I think even people who maybe are lukewarm or aren't fans of Ullmark, I feel like it's more of just the cap hit in the role as opposed to being like he sucks, right? Like I don't think you hear a whole lot of that. It's mostly just focusing on, they could have saved $5 million if they just get like a Joe Schmo, like veteran journeyman or something like that. And that's in that 1B role, which I think we both kind of disagree with in terms of just how important having kind of a veteran safety blanket is, having that in place for a guy like Swayman, who, even though he's talented, still a young guy, is still going to go through a few bumps in the road. So yeah, in terms of what the issues are for this team, having Jeremy Swayman and a reliable veteran in Linus Ullmark is not an issue. Like, no. Even if you want to talk,
and you don't need to go sign. You don't need to go out and get 2 new ones. Like, right. You're good.
And I think people fall into the same thing where it's like almost like finding a running back, where it's like you find any like solid one on the market, like you throw some money at them, they'll stop the puck. They'll fill out their role. It's like, all right, but if you want like an actual legit tandem, you have to either commit some money or you have to hit on a draft pick. And the Bruins have kind of done that with these 2 guys. So yeah, I think you look at the goaltending situation, far from the issue, I think, for this team. And you even look at what kind of plagued the Bruins last year in playoffs. I wouldn't say the goalies were the thing that doomed them in that series.
Yeah, again, I don't know how that's the number 1 problem. Like that's not even in my top 5.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not even a problem. I mean, you look at some of the other answers. Number 2 is keep getting younger / faster players. That's always kind of the thing. I'll give them that.
Even though they have gotten a lot faster. Like, I don't know what their Bruins play with pretty good pace now. Like, I don't know why people think they're, and
I think with Montgomery, they're going to play with even more pace. Yeah. I think that's going to be another thing they add too. Better, stronger draft picks, better scouting. Okay. That's
number one. Like, that is number one. Like, that should be like 65% of the vote. Like, holy shit, guys.
Also, another thing, and I don't think it's on here. It wasn't listed, at least. Again, this was unaided write-in, so maybe they like kind of grouped. Maybe people said this, they just grouped things in together. Where's the get 2 centers of the future? I'm surprised that's not. I mean, I guess maybe that's in with drafting and scouting, but I also think that should be its own thing.
Right.
Like, again, more secondary scoring is number 4, which
the thing that has literally doomed them in 5 of the last 6 failed playoff runs. Yeah, that's 16% of the vote. And
then lower ticket prices, more ticket specials and giveaways. I wonder.
That's probably very valid. So
that is. I agree with that. Again, we don't. We go because we cover the team. It's different. If we were ticket paying customers, we'd probably put that like number 1. But I wonder what kind of cool giveaways the Bruins could do, like some bobbleheads. some they could do.
They gave some bobbleheads a few years ago.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't heard of a Bruins bobblehead night in a long time.
Because they found out you were showing up, so they put them all in reserve. So
yeah, so he's gonna steal them. He's gonna take them all. We can't have these when he's here. But now we'll get to the fun one. We'll get to the really fun one that we both tweeted about, and that I think people were in awe of, up in arms about. Which player on the Boston Bruins, for whatever reason, does not / did not meet your expectations? And guess who was number 1? Numero uno. Tuukka Rask with 36% of the vote. And by the way, he was number 1 by a lot. There was Brandon Carlo was number 2, which, by the way, Carlo could have probably been number 1. Like, they got it right with Carlo, actually. I was kind of shocked that they had him there. Connor Clifton, though, at number 3, I thought he actually had a fairly good season last year. I don't know if
I'd rather put like Riley or something. I feel like Clifton, the problem with Clifton is when things go bad, it tends to be like something really very evident. But I also think that's kind of the same with Riley, where I think in most situations he's a very good, puck moving defenseman. But when there's a D zone lapse, it usually ends with like a puck in the back of the net. That's the issue, right?
Yeah. And again, Nick Foligno at number 4. I feel like Nick Foligno could have been 2 or number 1, but Rask at 1. Now, Rask's an interesting case because, when he came back last year, wasn't great, right? The experiment really did not work out. 4 games and he was gone, and he went back to retirement. But the Rask arc after retirement was pretty sick. All the appearances and the beers during games and things like that. But I don't remember word for word what we said in the winter leading up to Rask. I think we said it was a good thing to have, but it was also like, you have 2 really good goalies already, so this isn't like an end all be all. And again, they signed him to what was veteran minimum, right? Like, there was not a lot of stock in this. Jeremy Swayman got sent down to Providence for like 10 minutes and was back up. So I don't know, I don't know if there were really high expectations for Rask.
And I also think it's something where I feel like most of the criticism, it's almost like the same with Olmark, where I feel like most of the criticism has more to do with the contract and the role as opposed to the player. Again, listen, there's people who do not like Tuukka Rask at all anyway, even, healthy, not healthy, at his age, if he was 27, they don't think he's a good goalie. Sure. Okay. You can go with that. But I feel like most of the criticism for the Rask thing was, again, as you kind of said, it was the fact that they had a pretty good system in place. You don't want to send Swayman down and kind of mess with his head, which I think we both agreed that it was, a low risk move. Swayman's still going to get regular reps. If he plays well, it's a good problem to have. And if you've got 3 pretty good goalies, you're pretty much set for at least this year, right? And you still have a really good young goalie in Swayman in place who's still getting reps. He's not on the bench or anything like that. Again, did not work out, but I wouldn't put Tuukka Rask, he of 4 total games played this year, as the most, the guy that did not meet expectations. I mean, were we expecting him to come off hip surgery and do a crazy run for the Vezina or something like that? Or like make a run where he's going to be like 18-1-1? No, I don't think so.
I don't think we ever said that. Ever.
No, it's again, I think if he was healthy, which is unfortunate just the way it all played out, but when he's on his game, he's a very, very, very good goalie and he could help you out. But I don't know if putting a guy like Rask in, who again ended up being kind of just a small footnote in terms of the bigger picture this past season. I don't know how that influences or what leads to him being the number one guy there, other than the fact that there's just the history. And I think you see his name on a PDF form and go, him. I know that guy.
I hate him.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And again, I don't know how he's number one in that. I don't. Again, what were the expectations? Like, I don't know. Again, he was a terrific goalie for all his career. Maybe people thought that he was going to come in and do what you said and make this crazy run for the Vezina and challenge Igor Shesterkin. But again, I don't know what the expectations were. Carlo was legit. As I said, Carlo has missed expectations, especially now that he's getting paid. I'm surprised Charlie Coyle wasn't on that list, because I feel like Coyle's been a popular one in years past. I'm not saying that he has missed expectations, but just given that, he got a pretty solid contract, pretty hefty deal, and they expected him to be a number 1 or 2 center, and he didn't really fit as a number 2 center. I'm surprised he wasn't on that list, even though, again, good as the third line center, actually had a fairly solid year last year. Looks to have a better year this year. I'm just surprised he wasn't on that list. But again, Tuukka Rask kind of took the cake there. Another thing I found interesting, and I'm going to go back here to the teams going against one another, because we'll get to who the Bruins should go out and get, the players. We'll get to that in a second. But first, there was one other interesting thing. I was doing a quick look through before we started this, because I was like, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And there was a question: if you could only select one, which of the following teams do you believe has the best chance of winning a championship the soonest? Now, the Celtics, no surprise, number 1 at 46%. Here's what surprised me: the Patriots came in at 38%. The Bruins came in at 12%. Now, again, we have sat here and said the Bruins are not really true cup contenders. They could be once healthy, but I don't know if we can put them in with like the Colorado Avalanche and, the teams in the upper echelon quite yet. But we're getting into some football talk here real quick. But the Patriots are nowhere close to being a Super Bowl contender. They are a borderline wild card team. And we sat here last week and said with the Bruins, probably the 3rd or 4th in the Atlantic, but could be higher because the division is not that great. The Patriots, that is not the case at all. And it's also, by the way, it's also the easier when you get in the NHL postseason to go on like a run than it is in football. Like in football, it's, usually the top teams in the Super Bowl, right? Whereas the NHL, that is not often the case.
Yeah, for hockey, it's all about just being in the mix. And I think the Bruins will be in the mix. And if they can kind of tread water at the start of the year, again, we I think had this conversation last week about are we maybe underrating the team a little bit. If they're healthy and guys are rolling, that's about as legit of a top 6 as you can find. You've got McAvoy and Lindholm. You've got 2 goalies. Strayman should be better. You look at guys that should be due for a bounce back potentially under a guy like Montgomery. You look at just what the natural kind of spark you get from having a new coach in place. Like, this is a pretty good team. And again, are they in the same tier as the Avalanche? No, but you know what? You put them in a playoff bracket, they're probably pretty tough out. That's a veteran team that knows how to win, that is going to have that same zone defense. They're going to potentially have a higher offensive ceiling. I think they are going to be a very good team. And again, maybe the Patriots are surprised, but I think you look at just what has to go right. All right, if you're the Bruins, you have to, wait for McAvoy and Marchand to come back, right? But also, all right, you need Swayman to take another step forward. Okay, that's rational. You need Jake DeBrusk to score 30 goals. Well, if he plays like he did last year and he's actually happy now, yeah, it makes sense. If you're the Patriots, you need to fix this offense. It seems broken because you don't know who's calling the plays. You literally have like just a mismatch in terms of your coaches. Offense has not looked good at all. They looked like they couldn't do anything against like the Raiders backups in their last game. You need like Jonnu Smith to go off. You need like a guy like Parker or Aguilar to give you 800, 900 yards if Pocket can even stay healthy. Like, there's just so many pieces that need to fall into place perfectly for the Patriots to be, 11 and 6, whatever the new 17 game record wise is. Like, I feel like just so much more has to go in the Patriots' favor. And even if all goes right and they win 10, 11 games, I feel like the Bills are still in front of them. So you look at the Chiefs, you look at the AFC West, you look at some of these other teams out there, pretty tough. So, 38% of the vote for the Patriots. I don't agree with that.
No, I don't. I would put the Bruins near the Patriots. I'd put the Bruins actually above the Patriots. Again, if we're doing like who's close to a championship, it's probably Celtics, Bruins, Patriots, and then Red Sox.
Yeah, Red Sox with a 0% chance in 2022, which is actually true. Like, they are legitimately getting close to getting eliminated. So yes. I do see the merit there. But
Yes.
also
But
again, a lot of teams have been bailed out by the Red Sox just being complete butt this year. So
yes. I will also say the Red Sox, if they do re-sign Devers and maybe Bogarts, they have a solid core there. They have younger talent coming up. Maybe they compete for a championship next year.
They were 2 wins away from going to the World Series last year, which I think is why people are also even more sour about this team, is that they didn't build off any of that momentum. I will say, though, one of the best parts of the survey, they had a list of, I think, like the 10 best and worst things that happened in Boston. And one of the worst was for the Red Sox. And it was the fact of how specific this criticism is. So for the Red Sox one, it's literally on the survey. It says, the worst thing to happen, Chaim Bloom's approach to running a team / Red Sox being reduced to a spreadsheet / computer program. That's like absurdly specific and hilarious. So
good for people.
I feel like, imagine if like everyone just like said that word for word, and like we the survey people are like, we have to run this. Like everyone's saying that.
we got to do it. We can't not do it. Another thing that surprised me about that was weren't the Bruins like in like best things that happened this year? Weren't the Bruins making the playoffs like number 2?
Right. Yeah. I don't know if that
which is wild because the Bruins made the playoffs like every year except for like two years in the past 15 or so years. And it's like that was really the second best thing to happen this year. Like I don't know.
It's just Bruins are, and usually in the grand scheme of things, the 4th team in this market. But I feel like even casual fans, you get playoff hockey secured. It's on tap for April and May. You got Audio Slave playing on the speakers of the Garden. I think people get hyped up for it. And again, it's a very
Bruins
easy
playoff
thing for
commercial commercials too. Let's get everybody going.
Band of captains. Yeah. I mean, I do think it's something where even the casual fans can very easily get hooked on to watching a playoff hockey game. It's, I think, I bet we're biased, but I think it's probably the best playoff product out there. So when you got a hometown team, you got playoff hockey and the way it ramps up and the stakes involved, it's tough not to get engrossed in it, even if you're not a diehard hockey fan.
Tough to beat. Nobody beats that. Nobody beats that. Speaking of things nobody can beat, what one player would you like the Boston Bruins to acquire the most? Number 1 on that list, Austin Matthews at 23%.
What?
That would be amazing if they found a way to do that. Just for the memes, for everything. Austin Matthews is the future number 1 center of the Boston Bruins, which would be quite the move. I always love this. Matthews 1, Nikita Kucherov 2, Nathan McKinnon 3, Connor McDavid 4, which is wild because McDavid usually is the one leading this section.
Eichel was the leader last year. Eichel
won that's right. Year. And that was like very kind of like realistic. That was not like far-fetched. Victor Hedman at 5. No Cale Makar on that list, which I was shocked by.
It literally should be McDavid 1, and it like shouldn't be close, and then it should be like probably Cale Makar.
Yeah, and I'm surprised with the area. Like people aren't like, oh, UMass kid, Cale Makar. Yeah. But in fairness,
where do you go to school?
Oh, I think it was that school out in Western Mass.
UMass Dartmouth.
Was it Hampshire College? No. It was at UMass.
Williams.
UMass. So it was Amherst College. Amherst College superstar. But in fairness, all the other 4 teams polled. Those players were also kind of far-fetched. I think like the Red Sox was like Aaron Judge, Fernando Tatis, like Shohei Ohtani, and like the same with Celtics. And I think actually the Patriots one had Tom Brady as the number 5 guy. So people would love the Patriots to get Tom Brady. So it's always fun to see who the fans want. Be a cool thing to see this like specific. Like if you polled like our listeners, I'd imagine are very hockey intelligent. Like I think our listeners are extremely tuned in. They are very knowledgeable. I would love to see the list of like the 5 players that they would like the Bruins to go get. Because I don't think that list would be like McDavid, Kucherov, Stamkos. I think that would be like, you wouldn't go out and get Chychrun anymore, but it'd be players that like are realistic targets or depth score. Connor Garland is a big one. Like players like that, I think. And by the way, no more JT Miller. No more JT Miller. Unfortunate.
It's Bo Horvat season now, Evan.
Hey, we got to switch up our Canucks that the Bruins should go after. Maybe it'll be Bo Horvat. But anyways, Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at Boston Sports Journal?
Yeah, we're going to continue to break down some of the pressing questions leading up to training camp, look at potential roster battles, all that good stuff over at BSJ. So please subscribe at bostonsportsjournal.com. Want to follow me on Twitter? You can do that at ConnorRyan_93.
Go do all that. For CLNS Media, I'm Evan Marinofsky. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.